Welcome into another edition of the Throwing Chairs podcast. I'm Hayden Smith, joined alongside Audrey Marr and Thomas Montalbano for the Hoosier Network. Guys, it's great to be back in here. We're going to dive in to the Indiana-Florida Gulf Coast game, recap that a little bit. But before we get started with anything, a little icebreaker for us before we get started. I want you guys to tell me, what's your favorite candy?
I had a somewhat similar conversation this morning, except it was the complete opposite about our least favorite candy
Ooh, okay.
In the class this
That
morning.
might have been better.
I went with Almond Joy, but favorite candy? Yeah.
I feel that.
That's not even, I don't think that should be
Nah,
close.
I feel that.
But my favorite candy, I mean, it definitely changes, as I think most people should. Reese's, for sure.
That's top. Yep, that's up there.
I'm going to say Kit Kat and Twix, but I'm going to give Twix number one, actually.
Okay, I'm going to go along with the Kit Kat and Airhead Extremes.
Wow.
The Rainbow Berry,
That's
really
unique.
good.
Alright.
Really good. That's the go-to movie candy.
Yeah,
I gotta say. I like the icebreaker, though, Hayden.
Okay.
Good icebreaker.
Okay.
How about
you? I don't know. I'm with you, Thomas. Mine has changed so much in like the last 5 years. I think it used to be Mike and Ike's. I'd have the biggest bag of Mike and Ike's, and I could destroy those in a single night.
Non-chocolate candy, I would probably have to agree with you.
Exactly. But
Wow.
if I'm gonna go with my favorite right now, I gotta say it's Reese's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's got to be number one. I think this is a great way to get the pod started. So without
Great
further ado,
icebreaker.
let's go into this Indiana-Florida Gulf Coast game, guys. It was nothing short of a nerve-wracking one in Assembly Hall. Indiana had the lead pretty good right there at the end of the second half, but then just started losing it. And Florida Gulf Coast fought back, but the Hoosiers fended off the attack and won 69-63. Guys, what are your initial takeaways? Audrey, I'll start with you.
Half and half, definitely a half and half performance. I think you brought up a really great point in the last podcast that they had to come out hot. They didn't necessarily. They were down by two, or they were up by two only at halftime. But what I did like was how they incorporated Cups into that. He didn't start, but into that starting lineup. Definitely wasn't something expected, but it obviously worked when it was needed. Also, just 4 players with over 13 plus points. I think that team, it just shows that the team definitely really trusts each other. Xavier Johnson, Kel'el Ware, Malik Renew, Trey Galloway. I mean, those are names that you did not see getting a lot of points last season. And obviously, we knew heading into the season that this was going to be a completely different team. But to see that, I think it definitely shows, they were just relying on Trace Jackson Davis really a lot last season to get most of the points, and now to see 4 different people in their first game having that much success.
It's a lot more balanced.
Yeah, a lot more balanced.
Thomas, what about you?
I'm going to touch on a couple of Audrey's points. It was a team win, and it had to be a team win in order for them to pull it out. 4 guys in double figures, that was impressive. Like you said, not one person shined. It was everybody. Gabe Cups was phenomenal off the bench, especially that one possession that went a little bit viral on Twitter that caused a turnover. He dove on the floor twice in the same play. It was really good. It was tighter than I think most people expected. But for me personally, my first game that I got to cover here, that was super, super exciting. They played as a team. That's my biggest takeaway is they played as a team, and it was a good win for them in front of the home crowd, first game of the season to get the season started.
Yeah, I mean, a win is a win, and that's what this Indiana team is going to take away from this game. They're in the win column. Yeah, it was closer than they probably wanted it to be, but like I said, it's a W. So they're going to take that and they're going to run with it towards the further into the season. But I also think this was kind of an expected game, at least for me, for this Indiana team. A lot of new faces, a lot of guys that have just not played a lot of minutes on the floor together. Granted, yeah, they had the 2 exhibitions, but that's against one NIA school and then a team like UIndy. That is not one to be trifled with. The Greyhounds will have a phenomenal season this year.
I think Florida Gulf Coast will have a great season as well. I find them being one of the sleeper tournament teams if they were to make it. I completely.
Dunk City.
And they were without Isaiah Thompson, is that his
Yep.
name? Isaiah Thompson.
Former Purdue.
Exactly. And once he's healthy, I think Florida Gulf Coast has massive chance to be successful in the season.
No
the
doubt.
Ace Sun will probably run through Florida Gulf Coast this season. But going back to my point, I think it's an expected start for Indiana. Like you said, Audrey, 4 different Hoosiers scoring in double figures. That's incredible, especially Trey Galloway leading the team in scoring. That is not what I had on my bingo card after that game. I think we all basically gave our takes on who we thought would be the standout player. And obviously, none of us said that it was going to be Trey Galloway. Looking back on it, probably should have thought so because he is a captain of this team and he's going to be the emotional leader for this team along with Xavier Johnson, but he still has that ability to be a force to be reckoned with on the offensive end. I look at that second half for Indiana, especially whenever they had those 3 guards in the game at the same time. Xavier Johnson, Gabe Cupps, and Trey Galloway went on that 19-2 run to increase their lead. They would never relinquish, and I think that's really what did it for them. Granted, they started to lose the lead at one point, but Indiana fought back with those 3 guards, and they were able to take it away. So, guys, I want to go into a little bit of a different segment in this aspect. I'm going to go your good, bad, and ugly from the first game of the season. I'll start off with the good. Thomas, Audrey, which one of you all want to start me off?
I could start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to keep it basic. It was good. They were down 6 in what looked like it was going to run away from them. I mean, FGCU couldn't miss their threes. They took the lead kind of out of nowhere and maintained that lead. IU was fighting back a little bit, but FGCU just seemed to be pushing their lead just further and further. Woodson called timeout, and they came out of the gates firing, starting that 19-2 run. That's what this team needs to do throughout the entire season, and they did a great job of it there. That was good. I'm going to keep it there for the good.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with your point, was the 19-2 run when Gabe Cupps was in the lineup. That was crucial. I don't think anyone would have seen a 3-guard lineup, and it was very successful. I think these first couple games are going to be more experimenting for the team, and obviously it was, well, we'll go into the bad and the ugly later, but yeah, we'll stick with the good. We'll talk more about, we'll focus on the good, but yeah, that lineup was definitely, we saw so many good things from Gabe Cupps in the exhibition games. So to see that, obviously, starting the regular season, I think it will be crucial for Indiana going forward.
I think I saw a tweet that said that every Midwestern middle-aged dad is going to love Gabe Cupps' game, and I can't agree more because, yes, he's going to make those dirty plays that not very many other players are going to make. He's going to dive on the floor. He's going to go after loose balls. He's going to play very hard on the defensive end, but he's also a player that can also make some of those flashy plays. He can knock in that 1-3 that comes to mind in the second half.
Huge. 3 minutes left.
Exactly. It was almost a running 3. I can't even really relate to it because
someone was like,
I'm not
it
that
looked like
athletic.
Jordan Holes, exactly like it, and that's what someone said on my little thread when I was updating the game. Shout out whoever that was.
It is eerily similar with how Gabe Cupps plays, just like Jordy Holes did during his time with Indiana. It's so scary. But going back to what we were talking about, my good for Indiana, like I touched on it earlier, was the guard trio of Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, Gabe Cupps. They went into the lineup. Indiana went on a huge run. You look at their efficiency stats during the time that those 3 were in the game. It was unbelievable, and Indiana just absolutely ran away with it. I think you're going to see that kind of a small ball lineup a lot more, at least in non-conference play. You probably won't see it much against a team like UConn, a team like Kansas, and then especially once you enter Big Ten conference play, because the Big Ten is just, I mean, they're big, and you're gonna have to have other bigs in the lineup, and so you're just not going to see that lineup much anymore unless they're going to be able to win you basketball games like they just did. Let's move on to the bad. We'll start off with you, Audrey. What's your bad for Indiana?
I have to go with the 3-pointers that they allowed. I said that in the podcast that one of their keys.
Mine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay.
Whatever.
We'll
I'm
agree.
going to go on that same.
You could go on the same page, but the 3-pointers I said was like a crucial thing that it was going to be a key to the game. And they allowed 13 3-pointers, 5 alone by Darian Johnson.
Yep.
17 points.
And Zach Anderson.
Yeah.
They both had 5 threes.
That too, yeah. So I mean, honestly, it was crucial. That's going to be an issue that they're going to really need to focus on heading into the season. Also, their free throws, 19 for 30, which is above 50%, but still something to definitely work on. Like Mike Woodson said and you said,
Yep.
they're free throws.
You gotta knock them in.
You have every opportunity to put them in, to knock them in, and then. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm going on so many tangents right now.
Keep going.
But this just
There's a
came
lot
up
of
to
bad
me
to talk about.
was at the end of the fourth quarter, like pretty much in crunch time, was all of those turnovers that they allowed. And then we get down to the court and they are only down. It was what? They were only down by up by 3?
They were up
at
2
some
with
point.
35 seconds left.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's going to be that's the one time that you need to have control over the game.
Exactly.
And they didn't. So
You talk about the 3-pointers that Indiana allowed. It was a total of 13, like you said, but they also put up 34 threes as a team for Florida Gulf Coast. It was almost similar with how Marion played in the exhibition. Both of those teams, between Marion and Florida Gulf Coast, that's their whole identity. They're going to shoot those 3-pointers, and they're going to chuck them up as much as they can, and they're probably going to average around 30 to 35 threes a game. That's really where these kind of teams are going. Indiana just has to find a better way to close out to those shooters and not allow 13 threes made. I go to a point that Zion Brown made on his walkthrough the day after the game. Shout out to Zion Brown, former Indiana men's basketball beat, now with the Indy Stars. Zion, cheering you on, man. You're doing a great job.
let's go, Zion.
Gonna have to get him on the podcast here at some point because he's just
Stay tuned.
gotta pick his brain. But he makes a great point about how Indiana's rotations were just so slow on defense and they weren't able to close out. Sorry to cut you all off, Thomas. I'll go back to you for the bad.
No, it's all good. You both bring up excellent points. Audrey, I'm going to start with some of your points. I think I was debating between my bad and the ugly, between 3-point shooting and free throws. I'm going to save free throw shooting for the ugly. But as for the bad, those 13 threes, 10 of which came from 2 players alone. I'm leaving this in the bad instead of the ugly for a few reasons. One, a lot of them were clean looks, like way too clean, and that's why they were able to knock them in. But at the same time, they were really good shots. 2 of, who was it? Zach Anderson's threes came with 1 minute left in the game, and that was part of that run that brought them right back in and only down 2 with 35 seconds. And that cannot happen. But at the same time, kudos to them for being able to hit those shots. They were impressive. But IU, bottom line, needs to do a better job of guarding that 3-point line. It was a problem in exhibition play. It was a problem this opening game of the season. And they need to correct it. I'm sure they are during practice.
Yeah, I'll also go on that and say free throws for my bad. Again, they went 19 of 30. That's 63%. A good team needs to knock down their free throws. I mean, like what Mike Woodson said, they're free throws, they're free shots. Knock them in. You practice them. I've attended one of their practices whenever I was in high school. They practiced them after nearly every drill, or at least they did 2 or 3 years ago. I can only assume that they're going to be doing the same thing right now. This has been a problem that has plagued Indiana teams for years, and Indiana fans has voiced their concerns. The team is practicing them. Knock them in game time, and especially in Assembly Hall, the entire crowd is silent. There might be a couple Florida Gulf Coast fans that are yelling, but you can't really hear them. You're focused on the rim. Knock in your shots and move on with the game. A good team's probably going to knock in around 75%, probably up to 80% of their free throws. That's on a very good day. But yeah, I got to go with the free throws. You got to knock those in. And I'll also say for another part of my bad, it's between the bad and the ugly, is the lack of bench production minus Gabe Cupps. After Gabe Cupps, he didn't have the greatest of games offensively speaking. He had 5 points on 1 and 2 shooting, both of those being from behind the 3-point line. But after that, your bench was non-existent. After Gabe Cupps, 2 points between 3 other players, and those 2 points going to Anthony Walker. CJ Gunn just never looked comfortable out there. He went 0 for 2 from the field, just both of the shots, not really good, clean looks. Caleb Banks only played 2 minutes, didn't see a lot of court action. He looked lost out there. Same with Anthony Walker. He just looked completely lost out there and just wasn't able to corral his thoughts and just slow his mind down. Once again, I'm going on for way too long. We'll go to the ugly. Thomas, I'll go back to you. You're ugly for this team.
Yeah, I don't mean to be too repetitive, but for me, the ugly was the free throws. And you guys mentioned they finished, 19 for 30.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, but the first half was 10 for 18. The second half, 9 for 12. That's, much better. It's
Yes.
that 75% mark that you're looking for. But 10 for 18 in the first half, I mean, it's almost inexcusable, especially this first game of the season. I touched that they had to come out of the gates hot early, and they didn't do that, and the free throw shooting was a big part of that. And, I'm going to bring up that soundbite that you guys have said a couple times from Woodson. They are free. You practice them every single practice, I'm sure, for at least 30 minutes plus.
Well, and especially as a team that is as tall as Indiana is, and as much as they're going to feed the ball into the post and they're going to attack the basket, you're going to go to the free throw line.
They're going to get to the line.
Yeah, you're going to get to the line. You're going to get your own from the free throw line. They're probably, I'm going to say, going to average around 20, I'll say around 20 free throws a game. You have to knock in at least, I'd say 15 of those out of those 20. And that's going to be a good day. You've got to be able to knock them in, like you said, Thomas.
I agree. And I will say Woodson must have said something at half. I'll say it one more time. They were 9 for 12 in the second half, which is obviously much better. But I'm going to leave the ugly at free throw shooting.
I was going to go back to the 3-pointers, but now I'm looking at this play-by-play, and I have to go back to those. And I also realized I said fourth quarter. Sorry. The football.
Good enough.
The football
You're
stuff
in
is getting
that-
to my
yeah.
head. The
You're in that
crossover's really,
crossover.
the crossover's happening. So
We're getting there.
The second half turnovers. I'm looking back at this play-by-play. 1 minute left. Turnover by Malik Renew, which led to a 3-pointer by Zach Anderson. Turnover by Gabe Cupps, which led to a missed 3-pointer, but then obviously the foul. And then Malik Renew missed the free throw, led to the fast break layup by Keyshawn Kel'el. I mean, that's what 35 seconds left, down by 2.
Yep.
So it was definitely ugly. So especially just in your first game, I know there's going to be kinks that you'll have to work on, but it's just you can't let that happen.
I mean, we were heading down to the press box, and all of a sudden it's a 2-point game.
Yeah.
Like literally,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was double digits at that point with 2 minutes left or whatever it was. But
it was a 10-point game with around a minute and a half to go.
that's
It's
crazy.
a theme that
a
tends
minute
to
and a half,
happen.
and a minute later,
It's
it's
a
down to
theme
2.
that tends to happen. Shout out the football beat. But the Akron game, we went down on the elevator.
Void that from my
we
memory.
went down the elevator. And then we were all of a sudden, like, Indiana was up. And then we are walking out to go down onto the field to the press box. And then they're tied. So
Never doubt the Hoosiers.
didn't hear anything from what happened. But it seems to be... Yeah, it's just something it can't happen as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'll also piggyback off of that point with the turnovers. Yeah, they had 11 turnovers. Keeping it under 12 is where most coaches are going to want to be. That's around a healthy margin. If you can get it under that, you're going to have a great day. 11 turnovers, not terrible. It was the fact of how those turnovers occurred. There was way too many times where players just stepped on the baseline and it was a turnover. I believe Mackenzie Mbako did that in the first half. It's a freshman mistake. He'll learn from this. It's a different size court. And then you go back to the other end in the second half. Trey Galloway just completely threw the ball from one end of the court all the way into the scorer's table where nobody was within 5 feet of the ball. As a senior on this team, that is not supposed to happen.
That was a
with
big
somebody like Trey.
miscommunication.
Yes, there was way too many times of miscommunication for this team, which again, you're going to get that at times with this team, with how young they are, with how inexperienced they are together. You're going to get those times from time to time during this season. So, guys, we'll go over now to a positive thing. Your standout player for the game against Florida Gulf Coast. I'll go on ahead and start off with this so I can just get my tangent over with and we can go on to you guys. I'll say Kel'el Ware. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. Had his first career double-double, which as a 7-footer, he didn't really get that much opportunity at Oregon. Had a season high of 9 rebounds with the Oregon Ducks last season, and he gets his first career double-double in his first official game in the Cream and Crimson. I thought he was phenomenal, especially on the defensive end. I think of those 3 blocks that he had, sent one all the way into the stands. Absolutely unbelievable, and I think he's going to be a big piece moving forward for this Indiana club.
I'm going to go with you. I did say, just kudos to myself, I guess.
Oh, man.
I did say in my prediction in the last podcast that I did think Kel'el Ware was going to be the standout player, and I predicted the double-double, just saying. Sorry.
You might as well just take Mike Woodson's job.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, the key that I said about Kel'el was that he was going to have to really, his confidence was going to have to boost, and I think it did. I think it really did. We saw that in the exhibitions over the halves. Yeah, that's how I'm going to say it. The halves. His confidence completely boosted as it went. And we saw that in the game. He seemed confident the entire game this time. And then he got his first career double-double. I mean, 13 points, 12 rebounds. Yeah, that's great in itself. But the 4 assists, he led the team in assists. The 3 blocks, as you said.
He led the team in assists?
He led the team in assists. So
that's incredible.
And obviously the 3 blocks that went all the way to Memorial Stadium. And then the 2 steals as well. I mean, he had a massive, massive game. And I think if his confidence just continues to boost, I don't know if we'll see a triple-double at some point.
Coming a Trace Jackson Davis question mark?
Yeah.
It's not even Thanksgiving and he's stuffing that stat sheet.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep. But Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to piggyback off you two. I think it's somewhat obvious that Ware had to be the standout player. 13 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. Audrey just said it, but those stats are very, very impressive in your first career game as an Indiana Hoosier. I do want to shout out, I'm not going to repeat too much of what you guys said. I do want to say those 3 blocks that you guys mentioned, those got the crowd going. Those were not normal blocks. Those were swats. Those were great.
Rejected.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm going to kind of leave it at that. You guys both hit all the points there was about Ware. I do want to shout out Trey Galloway one more time. He led the team in scoring with 16 points on 7 for 9 shooting. That's great. If that continues, Indiana's going to have a great season.
I will say there is one player I'm definitely overlooking right now, and that's Malik Renew.
I was just about to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I just stole the words out of all your... Yeah, but...
You're good.
But yeah, no, Malik Renew, I thought he also had a phenomenal game. He just looked way more confident than he ever was last year. A lot of the moves that I saw him making, those are moves that Trace Jackson Davis was making last season. So he's played a whole season with him, he's practiced with him, and now he's going to steal some of those moves and make them into his own. He just looked a lot more confident out there. There was times that he would make a shot that I was like, last year, if he would have taken that would have been completely out of control, and he just would have hit the back of the rim and it would have went out. This time, he's using his body, the new body that Cliff Marshall helped him build over the offseason. He's using that. He's driving inside, and he's able to lay some of these shots up. A big point of concern for Malik Renew, though, is he has to stay out of foul trouble. He had 3 fouls, which put him out for a majority of the second half. He cannot get in foul trouble, especially with how limited the front court is right now without Peyton Sparks. Mike Woodson said it best himself. Whenever they have Sparks back, that's a huge addition off the bench, especially whenever Malik Renew undoubtedly gets in foul trouble. But I mean, they've especially Trey Galloway said it. We've talked to him over the offseason, and we've said, you have to stay out of foul trouble because we need you as a basketball team. So, yeah, that's another play that came to mind. I don't know if any of you all had any other thoughts.
No, I 100% agree. We definitely should have already brought up Renew, but I'm glad you did right there. 15 points on 6 of 10 shooting. I mean, that's great. On top of the foul trouble, I do think he needs to do a little bit better job rebounding. He finished with 1, and that needs to be a little bit better.
Kel'el is just stealing them off from him. I mean, he's not the tallest player on the court anymore.
But yeah, Malik, I think, had a really great game.
I'm going to go back to your Peyton Sparks. He was questionable. So I think we'll probably, if we don't see him on Sunday, we'll see him in the next game. I think we will see him on Sunday, though.
You got to get that. Yeah. Keep going.
I was just going to say, I think he will definitely be crucial. I mean, we saw him in that first exhibition. People already loved him in like the 10 minminutes that he played.
Barely.
I think he will be a monster in the paint, and he will be crucial when all of their big guys get in foul trouble.
I will say not the way that he plays, but just the role that he will have for this team. He reminds me of Michael Durr from 2 years ago, a guy that came off the bench for Indiana whenever somebody like Trace Jackson-Davis or Race Thompson was in foul trouble. 9 times out of 10, it was whenever TJD was in foul trouble, because having Durr and Trace on the court at the same time was like having water on top of oil. It just was not going to mix together. But whenever you have somebody like Peyton Sparks off the bench, he's just going to have another role for this team where he's going to be able to take it inside and lay it up. So moving on from our Florida Gulf Coast recap, let's take a look at the next contest for the Indiana Hoosiers. They'll be playing the Army Black Knights on Sunday, and this is also a very special game for not just Indiana fans, but Mike Woodson himself, because this is Indiana's first game against Army in quite some time, and they're playing the Army Black Knights, who was Bob Knight's first head coaching gig. He coached at Army for 6 seasons prior to getting the Indiana job, and he coached the legendary Coach K at Army from 1966 to 1969. Guys, it will undoubtedly be another emotional night, as it will be for a majority of the season for Indiana, especially wearing the RMK patches on the jerseys for the rest of the year. It's going to be an emotional one. So I'll start with all of you guys with, what are your expectations for this game?
Definitely defending the perimeter. Army's only played 1 game. I kind of looked into the box score of that game. Ryan Curry, number 2, was 3 of 5 in 3-point shooting. Guaranteed Army did lose to Marist, but they'll definitely need to watch out for him. They shot a lot of threes. They shot 21. They were 8 for 21. So they look like they're going to be pretty focused on shooting those threes, and especially if they see that Indiana has been allowing a lot of threes, I wouldn't be surprised to see them going for a lot as well. So yeah, definitely watching out for that. Not only for this game, but again for the rest of the season. And then also I'll be looking for Mackenzie Mbako. I think he will probably. I think he'll have a better game this on Sunday, and obviously he had 10+ points in both exhibitions.
Yes. He played very well in the exhibitions.
He played great in the exhibition. So I think if he just like Kel'el, if he gains his confidence, he's a freshman in Assembly Hall, 17,000 people. It's a big environment, and it's definitely hard to get used to. That student section also packed to the brim.
Incredible.
Packed to the brim.
When they went on that run, I couldn't even hear myself type.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Off to the student section.
Yep. You could not hear. I couldn't hear myself think. So, if they pack, I almost said pack the rock.
Not quite.
If they pack the hall, if they pack the hall, I think. Like, I talked to Mbako on media days, and when I asked him what he was most excited for, he was talking about all the fans and the environment. So I think at some point, once he gets confidence, he will feed off of it. And once that happens, he'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Yep. You touched on a lot of really great points. Before I get into my areas of focus, I have to say that picture of Coach Knight and Coach K, that's almost iconic. I love that picture so much. That's
very
awesome.
Iconic.
My area of focus, I'm going to go back to what I said in the first episode. Come out of the gates hot. I think that's important for every team playing a basketball game, but I'm going to include the Hoosiers, of course, in that. I wanted them to do that in that first game. They didn't do that, as we touched on earlier. I think they have to do that in this game. This is by no means going to be a free, easy win, just like FGCU was not. And in order to take control, they have to do it early. I think that's super, super important. Free throw shooting, guarding the three, like Audrey said, those are both very important. And Mgbako, that was a really good point to bring up as well. He was very quiet in the FGCU game, and maybe it is a comfortable thing. Maybe it was just that it was a game for other players to shine. But Mgbako does need to find his comfortability at some point sooner rather than later for the Hoosiers to be at their maximum potential.
Well, you guys are just stealing the words out of my mouth. So there was something that just popped in my head, so I'm going way off topic right now.
Let's go.
But as we will at some point in time during every podcast, just get used to it, ladies and gentlemen. It's bound to happen. But it popped into my head. I think of the Kansas game. I believe it's the Kansas game the day after winter break begins up here in Bloomington for Indiana University. Is that it's going to be a stripe out at the hall. So I'm very curious to see how they play that off, if they're going to have each section wear a certain color, or are they just going to be like, hey, wear red or white, and we'll just go with it.
Yeah, I think they'll probably send out emails being like, you wear this, you wear that. It's going to look incredible.
If they coordinate it with the sections that you were talking about, instead of randomizing it, I think it'd be very, very cool and very aesthetically pleasing. And especially watching that, if you were watching on a TV, that would be, that would put the Hoosiers on notice.
I go back to the North Carolina game last season where it was the whiteout, which I believe this season the whiteout is going to be Purdue, which that'll just be another atmosphere that you've never seen before, once again, as it is every single season. But I go back to that North Carolina game, and I remember being there and just seeing all the white, and I was blown away that how everybody was participating in it. You don't get that kind of love from the fans and that kind of loyalty from fans to do that night in and night out and show up for the team. So once again, I went way off topic. I'll go back to where we were talking about with my expectations. It's simple. Just hit your free throws. Once again, I've harped on it time and time again. I'm going to continue to harp on it probably all season long. Just hit your free throws. Get off to a hot start, like Thomas said. All of you made great points, and I think that's exactly what Indiana needs to do. Moving forward, Audrey, I don't even know why I'm going to have to go to you at this point, because you already got it in the last game. So we're going to have our player to watch. So, Thomas, I'm going to go to you first.
Yep.
Who's going to be your player to watch in Indiana versus Army?
I'm going to play it safe and ride the hot hand and go with Kel'el. He's coming off a monster game. And I'm going to include the exhibition games, too. He played great in those exhibitions. So that's almost like 3 great games in a row. I'm going to ride the hot hand and go with Kel'el. I'm sure he's feeling super confident and feeling great going into this. And I'm going to go with him.
It's a very safe pick. Audrey, I'll go to you once again. You must just be from the future at this point.
She's an oracle.
It was one game.
She's a prophet at this point.
All right.
But I mean, we could bring up your score prediction from Indiana, Florida Gulf Coast.
No.
She's gonna take what she has and runs with it.
We're gonna keep the Kel'el Ware prediction, and I did not say anything for my score prediction. So I was silent in that.
Right now
I was silent in that portion. So player to watch. I'm going to go, obviously, Kel'el Ware again. But I also think Mackenzie Mgbako, he's going to have a good game. I think a lot of people were looking for him to have a great game last game. And obviously, 4 points, 2 for 6 in shooting. 3 rebounds. He was there. But I think he'll get hot around the perimeter as well. I think he will make a bunch of threes. And that was something that I also said was a key in the first game was the big men shooting their threes. And we saw Ware do it. And I think that, obviously, this might be a game where they do that as well.
I do have to say, I think Mgbako feels the same exact way, and he wants to bounce back.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I love that pick. I agree with you. I think Mgbako's in for a good game.
I think Renew as well. I was going to say Renew as well, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Mgbako, but I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to go with Malik Renew.
Yeah.
I think he had a great first game of his sophomore season, dropped 15 points. Granted, again, he had the 3 personal fouls. So as long as he's able to stay out of foul trouble against Army, I think he's going to have a phenomenal day. He could very well drop 20 points against the Black Knights. Audrey, you've got your hand up. What do you got?
I do have my hand up. I'm going to add Gabe Cups. I think he's going to...
Are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to put multiple players?
I already said 3 players as it is. I can add a 4th.
I was told in the first podcast that we can't change our pick.
Hey, that's score.
Whoa,
that
hold
is
on a
so
second.
different.
Just bring
Score
it up
is
on a
different.
second.
Score is different. Score is different.
This sounds like
I'm
it's a
not changing
dictatorship
anything.
right now.
I'm not changing anything. I'm adding something.
Thomas, we're outnumbered, and it's both of
She
us.
is adding
All right.
something.
I'm adding something. I'm not changing anything. I'm not changing anything.
true.
All right, then
I'm just saying.
for my player to watch, I'll
multiple-
say Trey Galloway, Malik Renew, Xavier Johnson, Khalil Ware, Mackenzie Obako, Gabe Cups. I'll go with Sean Burke.
I was going to say that. Okay, but I am going to say Cape Cubs because I think they're going to be utilizing that 3-guard lineup more because they saw so much success in the Florida Gulf Coast game. So I think they'll be utilizing that a lot. And even if he had 5 points, but if you look at the stat sheet, you wouldn't understand how good of a game he actually had.
Mm-hmm.
He has a massive defensive presence, and it's definitely needed. And especially if Army comes out with a lot of shooting a lot of threes,
Very
it's going to
well
be he's going to have a crucial part in the game.
Gabe Cups makes those plays that you're not going to see on the stat sheet 9 times out of 10. He's going to make those hustle plays, which, in all honesty, I would love to see the day where a new stat is created and you have those kind of hustle stats. You have, I guarantee you they're probably out there somewhere.
Some advanced stat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Advanced stats, efficiency stats that whenever I'm scrolling through 2K, I just completely disregard. But I'd love to see those kind of stats, hustle stats where you see dives on the floor, jump balls caused, balls poked free instead of actual steals. I'd love to see that. So I think that's a great pick. So,
I do want to say, before you wrap it up,
go for it.
On the topic of adding people, I want to be fair, and I want to add Trey Galloway as a player to watch.
That's good.
We didn't really
This
mention him a whole lot
isn't fair.
last podcast.
I wasn't going to add him.
I haven't.
I just said I thought it was good.
All I put was Malik Renew. I'm going to stand by that. I'm going out and get the Renew burger
will-
tonight.
I will say,
I'm going
though,
to Big Woods.
what we saw in the exhibition games and we saw in this Florida Gulf Coast game was multiple players having a massive impact. So we have to go with
fair.
who we predict is going to... 4
All right, I'm going to
players
change
with 13
the doc
plus.
right now and in parentheses,
Okay. Oh, gosh.
players to watch.
Yeah, but just back to my point, we didn't touch on him, I think, as much as we should have last podcast, and
Definitely.
his performance gives him more credit than we're giving him for. So I want to shout him out. He had a great game last game, and he should have another great game, Trey Galloway.
He didn't have the headband on. Maybe that's what
And
it
he
is.
cut his hair.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
could
good
be
point.
what it is. But that could be what it is. But
Disappointing.
not saying that he had bad games in the exhibitions, but he had the breakout game when he took off the headband. But I
Hashtag
don't
bring
know.
back the long hair, Trey Galloway 2023. Disappointing, but we'll go on to our score predictions for Indiana and Army. I'm going to go last because I'm the host and I get to make these
Make the
decisions.
rules.
All right, who
It's
makes
a-
the rules, everybody?
Okay, if we want to really talk about who's making the rules with the players to watch,
No,
back me up, Thomas.
No.
Okay.
Oh, God.
I'm going to go last because I can. Thomas, let's start
Go
with
ahead.
you.
All right, I'll
What's
start.
your score prediction?
Now that I know how serious
We're
these
all
score
wanna know.
predictions are and whatever I say first sticks, I'm going to spend 5 seconds to think about this. And I'm going to keep it a little
5,
bit tighter. No, I need less than 5. Give me 1 second. I'm going to keep it a
1.
little bit tighter than last
10.
game. I had last game 85-65, I want to say. I then tried to correct 75-55, but you guys wouldn't let me, and that's okay. But point being, I had Indiana by 20, and obviously that didn't happen, and quite frankly, it wasn't even really that close. I'm going to keep this game a little bit tighter. I do think Indiana will be a little bit stronger offensively, especially with the game already under their belt. So I'm going to give them 80, and I'm going to give West Point 66.
I am going to go.
Top 3 score predictions.
All right. I'm really getting cooked here. I'm really getting cooked here.
Let Audrey talk.
I am going to go 73-50 Indiana. I mean, we only saw Army only played one game. I don't know why I can't talk today. Army only played one game, lost 71-55 to Marist at home. We don't know a lot, but they do play, when we're filming this, they do play tonight.
Yes.
So that'll be an indicator as well. And I think, I don't know, I think this will be a special game for Indiana, especially because this whole season's going to be special because obviously they're wearing that patch on their chest. And this is the game where it will probably have the most emotion, especially for Mike Woodson. And they're going to want to play to recognize that fact in honor of Bob Knight. So I am going to go 73-50. I think they will be better on the defensive end. And they will, I know Mike Woodson said that they don't want to rely on their half-court shooting. But I think that they might. I think that we'll see a lot more three-pointers and maybe some improvement on the free throws.
Yeah, if this team can really set it down on the defensive end and use their length and shoot those passing lanes and get opportunities in transition, I think that's where this team is going to thrive the most. It's making defensive plays and turning that into offense. And I think if they're able to do that, they're going to rack up a lot of points. So I had Indiana and Florida Gulf Coast in kind of a tight game. I was close, but not too close. Obviously, the game ended up a lot closer than a lot of people probably would have thought. So I'm going to say that Indiana wins this one a lot bigger than the previous one, and I'll say Indiana wins 78-52. And I think the Hoosiers will play great defense, and they're going to hit their shots. So, without further ado, that is going to do it for this episode of the Throwing Chairs podcast. Be sure to follow the Hoosier Network on X and Instagram to stay up to date on this new season of Indiana basketball. And we said that we were going to do this after the first podcast. Until next time, have a great day, Hoosier fans.